Ankara shows that not all capital cities are the most interesting to invest into. As I've spent time here in Ankara, I've realized something structural. First of all, it is very difficult, right, to speak in English here. And this is compared to Istanbul, this is compared to Rize, this is compared to Antalya, this is compared to Antakya, right? The level of English here is non-existent. And that's saying something, right? If you're comparing to other cities in the same country and there's no English, that means there's no foreign investment. And why is this an issue? Well, to get foreign investment means to understand, right, the drivers of growth. And so there is no drivers of growth, in other words. And so inherently, what you get in Ankara is, yes, you get lower priced property, although not too much lower, as there's endemic corruption in Turkey, there's endemic corruption in Ankara, and so where does that corruption money end up? Ankara real estate. And so you actually get artificially high prices with no backstops, no liquidity, and realistically a horrid, right, place to look at and invest into. And while I do understand, right, people wanting to find undervalued markets, I would not say Ankara is one of them. And I will show you the places in Turkey that I do find more interesting, and you'll see that in future videos. Not sure if I'll show you this time I'm in Turkey, but sometime. And so, in essence, what you get is bloated and bureaucratic, high-priced properties where there's no resale markets, and you are at the mercy of a fairly high-priced city by Turkish standards. And so, while I'm actually looking into places like Gaziantep, places like Batman, and I don't have anyone on the ground, so if you're interested in talking about Konya, about Gaziantep, feel free to comment down below. However, of course, Gaziantep and Ankara are not comparable, really, because Gaziantep is a very historical city, and Ankara is not. It was created in the 1930s due to Ataturk wanting to move the capital away from Istanbul. And so, essentially, you get what is a very boring, very businessy city that doesn't even really have businesses, right? A lot of the businesses are in Istanbul. So, you get what is essentially a hollow city that doesn't understand where they're placed and doesn't even understand why they're the capital city. And so, structurally, it makes no sense. The city is extremely depressing, realistically. And while I think that there is some place for Ankara, I don't think it's as an investment. I don't really know what that would be, as I believe there are places and times for everything. However, Ankara is just really weird as a city. It's really weird as a place. And so, while I appreciate the time that I've spent here, I appreciate the people I've talked to here, it's hard to even talk with people here because it is significantly more conservative than a place like an Istanbul. And so, it's with this that, of course, I wouldn't recommend anyone really to spend time here unless you are looking at researching yourself on the grounds, and that's perfectly fine. However, yeah, I mean, for me it was just a place that I needed to go because I don't ever rule out capital cities. And for me that's important as it's protecting my credibility. However, if you don't have any reason to be here, I wouldn't be here. And I think this goes to show that realistically, the narrative, right, you have is likely shaped by people, saying Turkey good, the Citizenship by investment program is amazing, which I'll go over why in another video. The Citizenship by Investment program, fairly poor optically and realistically fairly poor as a plan C or plan D. I would say that realistically, if you're looking for a passport and you happen to want a good mobility hub, yeah, it's great, but realistically you shouldn't be looking at it for returns. You shouldn't be looking at it for liquidity, and you shouldn't be looking at it for anything more than perhaps a play for Istanbul airport, which is one of the largest and most traffic-heavy airports in the world. In that case, I could see that it would be beneficial, and that's what I'm going to use it for personally, is for Istanbul airport and being treated a little bit better as a Turkish national. And so, of course, I will get into my personal risk tolerance, but for most people, I would recommend it. That said, what essentially you have in Ankara is someplace that isn't really hospitable nor economically incentivized to invest into. And so you get essentially a very odd mix of everything that's going on in Turkey that's poor and none of the benefits. And so for me, it was just a simple stopover, and I'll be going to Rize tomorrow, but it's someplace that I think that realistically you should be weary of, you should be critical of, and I think you should be critical of all cities, right? Not just Ankara, but Ankara especially because it's the capital city shouldn't be absolved, right, of any criticism, or essentially you should just think about these things as they happen and think about what you want with your money. And for me, Ankara does not tick any of the boxes that I would want to happen with my money. I don't value my money being inflated away and becoming worthless. But of course, if you're looking for how to internationalize your life and protect against these sorts of things happening, you can book a one-on-one call with me. It's absolutely 100% free on the Calendly link down below in the description. If you are looking to join me on this journey of internationalization and globalization, feel free to click that subscribe button. If you liked the video, feel free to like it. If you really liked the video, feel free to share with your friends. This has been the Traveling Reporters, signing off.